Waiting for my cue.
Not yet. All right, Mayor Ortiz, you're all set.
Thank you, Megan, and good evening, everybody. First of all, Happy New Year to everybody, and welcome to the January 3rd City Council meeting for the City of Burlingame. And we are calling the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. And with that, we will move on to the Pledge of Allegiance, which I have so honored to ask our Parks and Rec Director, Margaret Glomstad, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That was impeccably done. I appreciate that. And with that, Madam City Clerk, if we could go to the roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien.
Here.
Councilmember Beach.
Here.
Councilmember Colson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Brownrigg.
Here.
Mayor Ortiz.
Here. And with that, then we'll move on to a report from our closed session to our city attorney, Mr. Guina.
There was no reportable action, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then with that, we're going for the upcoming events. And right now, really don't have anything new to report, but I'm sure next time we'll have plenty of new events. With that, we'll move on to, there's no presentations. We will open it for public comment. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just, this is unusual, but I'm going to alert an event that's not happening, and that is, Director Glomstad circulated it to the City Council, but we look forward to opening the Anson Burlingame Walk of Tolerance, but we're not going to open it on January 12th, which was a date we were asking guests to hold because of the weather. So that's been delayed, but we look forward to doing it as soon as it looks like we get a reasonable break in the weather. I just thought it would be helpful to put that out on the public.
That's the non-upcoming events. Thank you, Councilmember Brownrigg. And then with that, again, we will open it up to public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda. And with that, I'll open to the city clerk. And Madam City Clerk, do we have any members of the public?
Don't have any emails and I don't see any hands up. So I think we're good to go.
Thank you. And with that, then we will move on to item 8, which is approval of our consent calendar. First, I'll open it to my colleagues to see if anybody wants to pull any of the items on the consent agenda. Colleagues, I hear crickets. So with that, we will open it to the public to see if any members of the public would like to pull any of the items on the agenda.
I believe
I'm
Councilmember
sorry.
Colson.
Councilmember Colson, I'm sorry, I did not see your hand, sorry.
I forgot. No, I just was, just for the record, I had to add, I emailed Megan today, 2 other things, which is CCAG Finance Committee. I'm chairing that. And I'm also on the CCAG climate protection subcommittee as well, resource management and climate protection. So she's just going to add them on later, but I just wanted to make sure that that was on the public record.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, that's the committee assignments.
Yeah,
Okay,
those are 2 that I'm appointed, one by CCAG and I was asked by Marie Schwung, and the other is I raised my hand when they had an open position and no one stepped up to fill it. And it links in with my work at PCE and Sea Level Rise. So those are all knitted together.
Very
so
good.
She's just going to add them on.
So okay, so I'll go to my city attorney. Can we just approve that as amended, or should we pull the item?
No, you can approve it as amended.
Okay, so any colleagues, any other thoughts on that? Any other? If not, we'll open it to the public. And Megan, you got the notes on what we're adding, correct? Yes, okay, perfect, thank you. So are there any members of the public who are looking to pull any of the items on the consent agenda? Megan, nothing?
No, sorry. Yeah, no, I
Okay.
don't have any emails.
I was waiting for that Michigan thumbs up, but very good. Thank you, Megan. And so then with that, I will, back to my colleagues, I will entertain a motion
Move to
to
approve.
approve the, I have a motion, or do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember O'Brien and a second from Vice Mayor Brownrigg. Madam City Clerk, if I could have a roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien,
Yes.
Councilmember Beach,
Yes.
Councilmember Coulson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brownrigg,
Yes.
Mayor Ortiz.
Yes, and just to clarify, just for the record, it is as amended as stated by Councilmember Coulson. Okay, so with that, we will move on to item number 9, which is our public hearings. So we have a introduction of an ordinance repealing chapter 2.19 of the Title 2 of the Burlingame Municipal Code. Who will be leading that one?
That'll be me, Mayor Ortiz.
Thank you.
So I will keep this brief because we have talked about this item several times. This is our 5th public hearing concerning the transition to district elections. As we're all aware, we received a letter about 2 years ago from the law firm Shankman and Hughes telling us that we had violated the California Voting Rights Act. This letter was sent to several other cities, special districts, school districts throughout the state. And as a result, all of us have made the decision to transition to district elections. So we've already held 4 public hearings and extensive public outreach about how to divvy up the city into 5 districts. And that's all outlined very thoroughly in the staff report. And where we are tonight is we have an ordinance based off of the recommendation we got from council to adopt draft map D as our district map. So the proposed ordinance does a little bit of cleanup of some other language that we had previously that is now folded into our new language. But what it also does is that it adopts the district map and it determines the sequencing. So I'm just going to share the map very quickly. So this, as we're all aware, is draft map D. Now what we've done is we've added numbers 1 through 5. So the odd numbers 1, 3, and 5 will go to election first in November 2022. And that is because Councilmember O'Brien, Vice Mayor Brownrigg, and Mayor Ortiz's terms are all up then. Between the 3 of them, they live in districts 1 and 3, and then District 5 had no council member in it. So it makes sure that we always keep the 5 council members. And then as stated in the law, districts 2 and 4 will go to election in November 2024, and those line up with the terms of Councilmember Coulson and Councilmember Beach. The other thing this ordinance states is that to run for office in these districts, you must live and be a registered voter in that district. And to vote, you have to live in that district. So with that, I would ask that that the mayor requests for me to read the title of the ordinance, and then you waive further reading and introduce or open the public hearing.
Okay, so would you please, do we go to comments first, or will you read the title first?
I'll read the title and then we'll do a motion to waive further reading and introduce.
Okay, so Madam City Clerk, if you could please read the title of the ordinance.
Sure. An ordinance of the City of Burlingame repealing Chapter 2.19 of Title 2 of the Burlingame Municipal Code and adding Chapter 2.18 to Title 2 of the Burlingame Municipal Code to provide for the election of members of the City Council by 5 districts, establishing the boundaries and identification number of each district, and establishing the election order of each district. CEQA determination exempt pursuant to state CEQA guidelines sections 15378 and 15601B3. I should also note for the record that Paul Mitchell from Redistricting Partners is in the audience if we have questions tonight of him.
Very good. Thank you so much. Colleagues, anybody would like to make a motion to waive further reading?
Mr. Mayor, sorry, go ahead. Or I'll waive further reading. I'll make a motion to waive further reading and introduce the proposed ordinance.
And I'll second.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Beach, seconded by Councilmember O'Brien. Madam City Clerk, if we could have a roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien,
Yes.
Councilmember Beach,
Yes.
Councilmember Coulson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brownrigg,
Yes.
Mayor Ortiz.
Yes. And with that, then I will open it up to questions from my colleagues. And I will please ask you to reserve the comments for after we have public comments. So we will open it up first for questions. Any questions? I think we've talked about this ad nauseum, so that's why we don't have any questions. And with that, then we will open it up to.
Oh, Mayor Ortiz, we have one from Vice Mayor Brownrigg.
Oh, then I'm sorry, I'm having trouble seeing the hands, so let me fix this. That's what I'm doing. Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Brownrigg, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really relay this on behalf of a couple of constituents. So I would like Mr. Mitchell, who has been our Sherpa through this process, to explain briefly, but clearly how redistricting partners dealt with all of the public input and how it decided what to keep and what not to keep. There are some parties, I'm not saying I'm one of them, who believes that some input was given short shrift. And so I'd like Mr. Mitchell, rather than our city clerk, to be able to explain for the public record how input was received, processed, and prioritized, if I may.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. And thanks for having me. So the process of redistricting, as we know, has changed a lot in the last 20 years. The conversion from at-large to districted elections, as well as the process of actually changing elections once they are changing election boundaries once you're already in a districted system. Those changes have meant that redistricting is now much more a front-facing responsibility, with the local government working with the public to develop, in your case, your first districted system plans, but in the case of agencies that are doing redistricting, those adjustments. And this process has been going for months with a deep level of engagement with the community, starting with a lot of just outreach, just to let the community know what was happening in the redistricting process. Not only reaching out through those traditional means like, letting the newspapers know or having your open hearings to discuss it, but also doing outreach hearings, doing activities out in public, having the ability for people to draw their own maps, and all of that being promoted through a lot of kind of traditional and non-traditional means. You guys even had dog treats and other kind of redistricting swag along the way to kind of make the environment around it more interesting maybe to folks and try to get greater engagement. So that is the way redistricting and the conversion from at-large to districts is being driven nowadays. It's no longer, council members going into closed chambers and drawing maps with their own interest. It comes from the public forward. Now, as we were going through the process of eliciting this public engagement, we did receive a lot of different information and a lot of different feedback from the public. One of the greatest challenges now in redistricting is how do you take all this community of interest testimony and start to translate it to maps? And one of the challenges in that transfer from community of interest input to actual maps is that your maps have to meet a lot of criteria that the public interest input doesn't always have to meet. Somebody might come up with an ingenious way to draw districts that might not fit the term of compactness in the state law. Somebody might come up with a great idea about keeping certain communities together, but in doing so, it doesn't allow you to have districts that are equal size. And so as you get from that community of interest testimony to the map finalization process, you have to try to make choices and decisions around how you're going to balance these different communities of interest. And so as we do that, we try to, synthesize a lot of that community of interest testimony and always trying to make sure the community understands that they're being heard. There could be instances where somebody says, hey, we went repeatedly and said, we want these parts of the city to be kept together. But in our attempts to try to keep those communities together, it meant that other areas had to be divided because of equal population, or keeping those two areas together literally made that district too large for a single district. So there was always a balancing that had to happen. That's always true with redistricting. I think the number one takeaway from the public should be that even if there are things in this map that they don't like, everything about the final plan was done in the public, kind of public facing, done with community of interest testimony first. And if they watched all of your hearings, they might be able to find the rationale as to why this one neighborhood wasn't able to be with this other neighborhood, or why they couldn't follow a certain street line the entire way across the city. So it's a constant issue in the redistricting process, that when you empower the public to give this input and you try as hard as you might want to meet every bit of public input that you receive, that you're not always going to be able to meet every single input because you have to meet all the other criteria of the law. I think that personally, and my experience working with the city, you've been one of the best cities in the state in terms of conducting this outreach. We've pointed a lot of our other city clients to your website, to your community of interest input form, to your dog toys, and to your other outreach tools that you used. And I'm sure that your office has kind of felt like they're fostering along a bunch of other cities who are undergoing the same process. So if you have any specific questions, I think that I or other council members that are involved or staff can help answer those, but that's the kind of framework I think that's important for public to know.
I appreciate that, Mr. Mitchell. And mostly what I want people to hear, and what I think you just confirmed, it wasn't just about the outreach. It was that we paid attention to all the input we got. It's just that you can't, it's like solving a Rubik's Cube. Not every turn is going to yield a good an outcome that works. So, but mostly what I believe has happened, and what I wanted you to say, and you did, is that you paid attention to all the input, you read it all carefully, and you considered it as we finally came up with these maps. And that was really my question, Mr. Mayor. So thank you for giving me that moment.
Thank you, council member. And thank you, Mr. Mitchell. That was a great explanation. And at the end of the day, it was a compromise. We were not able to address every single concern, but we did the best that we could. And I appreciate you sharing how we compared to other cities. I think that's important for people to hear, because I think our city clerk and her staff did just an amazing job. And you cannot say that we did not do proper outreach. I was out there at the farmer's market a couple of times with her, and we certainly put the word out. Any other comments or questions from members? Or no? Okay, then with that, then we will open it to the public for any comments from the public. Madam City Clerk.
I have no emails and I don't see anyone's hand up.
Okay, and then with that, then we will move on to just, I guess the direction is to ask you to publish the summary. And
Mayor Ortiz, if I might, we need to have a motion to bring it back for a second reading.
Very good. So with that, any colleague who wants to make a motion?
Happy to make a motion to bring it back for a second reading.
Second.
So I have a motion by Council Member Colson, second by Vice Mayor Brownrigg, and we have a roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Brien,
Yes.
Councilmember Beach,
Yes.
Councilmember Colson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brownrigg,
Yes.
Mayor Ortiz.
Yes. Okay, and then with that, then we will move on to item number 10A, which is a consideration of one appointment to the Measure I Citizens Oversight Committee. How are we doing? Are we doing by text message? Is that how we're going to do this again? Okay. And
Yes, but we should open it up for
sure. Okay, so first let's talk. So any comments from the members of the public?
I don't have any emails and I don't see anyone's hand up.
And then I'll open it to colleagues if there's any comments from colleagues before we take the vote. And And having none, then we could just go ahead and take the vote. Bear with me a second. Let me know when you're ready, Megan.
So, Councilmember O'Brien is it B-Way-Yay? Is that how I pronounce her name? Yes.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Yes.
Councilmember Beach, yay. Councilmember Colson, yay. Vice Mayor Brownrigg, yay. And Mayor Ortiz, yay.
So unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Ye. Really welcome and really glad to have you. So with that, then we will move on to item number 10B, which is a consideration of one appointment to the Planning Commission to fill the remainder of the term. And with that, I will open it to members of the public. Is there any comments from members of the public?
I don't have any emails and I don't see anyone's hand up, so we're good to go.
Excellent. So I will open it to my colleagues for any comments before we vote. And having none, then please just send your vote to Megan. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready. So Councilmember O'Brien, Jennifer Pfaff, Councilmember Colson, Jennifer Pfaff, Councilmember Beach, Jennifer Pfaff, Councilmember Colson, Jennifer Pfaff, Vice Mayor Brownrigg, Chris Horan, and Mayor Ortiz, Chris Horan. So we have a 3-2 vote for Jennifer Pfaff.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. Welcome to the Planning Commission. And we'll have someone who's extremely well educated with everything to do with the Planning Commission. So welcome and glad to have you. And with that, then we will move on to item number, let's see, that would be 10C, which is a resolution regarding the parklet. So I will pass that on to, I'm assuming it's to Mr. Kevin Gardner, who magically appeared right on cue.
Thank you, Mayor Ortiz and members of the City Council. At the December 6, 2021 City Council meeting, the Council approved extending the parklet program through December 31st of 2022, with the provision that a rent be charged for use of publicly owned space and that sidewalk cleaning fees be assessed. The Council passed a motion to adopt a $1,500 per year rent program with cleaning fees to be adopted in the future. The staff report provides the methodology behind the rental figure, so I won't go into the details here, but I'm happy to answer questions. What I do want to emphasize to the public is that the intent of setting a rent structure is to capture the value of publicly owned land so that the use of the space is not considered a gift of public funds. Gifts of public funds are not allowed under the state constitution. Also, this is a move towards a longer-term program that is not directly related to the pandemic. Given that people have continued to enjoy the parklets even when indoor occupancy restrictions have been lifted, this program is considering the parklets as a longer-term amenity. 2022 will be a trial for longer-term program with a review later in the year to assess how it's going. The $1,500 rent is a flat rate based on a parklet measuring approximately 300 square feet. If they are parallel spaces, those are typically 2 parking spaces, and if they're angled, that's typically 3. But it's the same fee for whether it's the 2 parallel or 3 angled. There are some small variations based on the conditions on the ground, or in some cases sharing arrangements with neighboring businesses and but overall 300 square feet is representative of the parklets that we have out there. We're still working on the fee structure for the sidewalk cleaning, but anticipate having that ready for the next council meeting on January 18th. The rate will likely be, the cleaning cost is based on an estimated average staff effort for each location. So that's what we're still working on. Excuse me, the staff report mentions design standards. Previous direction from the council focused on covering the orange barriers and providing a floor that's level with the sidewalk. We don't anticipate standards that are more involved than that. So it's really covering the orange barriers and having a level floor that's level with the sidewalk. So the resolution before the council formalizes the trial period through the end of 2022 and includes the flat rent of $1,500 per parklet for that time period. I'm available for questions as well as staff from Economic Development, Public Works, City Attorney's Office, and the City Manager.
And once again, this has been discussed at length in the Economic Development Subcommittee, and then has come to before council. So we have had plenty of conversation about this. And so with that, I'm going to open it to my colleagues for any questions. And again, let's hold comments till after the public comment. Councilmember O'Brien, I'm sorry.
So I just wanted to clarify that tonight we're only talking about the rent, not the cleaning fee, because I know there's a couple of concerns regarding that from business owners.
That is correct. We've previously had estimates of a cleaning fee, but we want to really dive into that a little more. So that's why the cleaning fees are not on here yet.
Okay, great. I just wanted to double check I had that correct. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Brien. I see Councilmember Colson has her hand up.
Thank you. Can I just ask, when we provide right now an encroachment permit fee with the $431 plus $1 per square foot over 200 square feet, two questions. How do we measure that? Is it the distance between the edge of the sidewalk and their business, and then the width of the front? And what does that fee cover?
If I may, I would like to have Director Mertuzza respond to that, as that really is in the realm of Public Works at this point.
Yeah, through the mayor, the fee that is currently mentioned is for the encroachment permit for the tables and chairs. And that is based on the plan submitted by the restaurant operator for the square footage that they plan on using in front of their business. So it is strictly based on what they have submitted.
Okay, great. So if they're just going like from the wall out 3 feet by 10, then 30 square feet, not the whole sidewalk.
Not the whole sidewalk. It is also, there is a restriction for allowing pedestrians passage through the middle of the sidewalk. So there are 2 areas, 2 rows of seating. One is close to the wall of the building, and the other is towards the parking meters. And so that area is what is taken into account. And the fee actually covers staff time, essentially. It does not cover anything else. It has not been updated in a long time.
So when you say staff time, it's the staff time to file the permit, check all the plans, do that kind of work, go and audit it to make sure that they're complying with their encroachment permit, that kind of thing.
It does not cover any sort of verification time or anything like that. It just covers the process to review the application, to field visit, and look at that.
Doesn't cover cleaning, nothing like that. Okay.
It does not cover any of that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mertuzza. Thank you, Councilmember Colson. Did you have another thought, Councilmember Colson?
No.
So with that, I'm gonna call on Councilmember Beach, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate the staff report and the thoughtful work that the committee did to kind of come up with a reasonable number. The staff report mentions that the rent certainly isn't intended to account for foregone parking meter revenue, because I guess it varies depending on the space throughout the city. But do we have a sense of what a prime parking space in downtown Burlingame might yield as far as parking revenue, just so that businesses understand, what we're dealing with as far as our bottom line. Do we have a sense of that? And I apologize, I didn't ask this in advance.
That's fine, Lisa. I see the city manager. It's unmuted.
And actually, I was going to see if either the public works director or the finance director had any idea about that, because that is not something we looked into ahead of time.
So Lisa, thank you for that. I do recall that I was doing an analysis a couple of months ago about the $1,500 fee, how it compares to the cost of parking on the avenue. And it is roughly approximately the $1,500 is an annual fee is roughly, if the parking space is to be occupied for the entire time on the avenue, say that would be a roughly less than 9%. $1,500 is roughly less than 9% of the parking fee that the city would, assuming that the parking space is occupied 6 days a week, because one day is a free day, Sunday, and 8 to 6 p.m. every day.
That's just helpful as a gauge. So I think what I'm deducting then is we are really leaning in and trying to be reasonable and foregoing a lot of parking revenue by providing this opportunity for to have parklets, and with only a 10% return, that's significant. Thank you, Director Martusa.
Thank you, Director Martusa. Thank you, Councilmember Beach. I saw our finance director come up for a second. Was there something you wanted to add to what Mr. Martusa
I think it's
said?
just because I called on either Syed or Helen, but Helen doesn't need to add anything unless she has.
Very good. Okay. No, I just saw her come up. I was making sure I'm not missing on something.
Because I was speaking on her.
Thank you. Councilmember O'Brien, you have an afterthought.
Yes, I do. So I think I have two questions. So one is for Director Martusa. So if someone has an encroachment permit that they had submitted, a while back, can they change that encroachment permit from its original status? If they were going to add a table with chairs or rescind a table with chairs, how does that work if they want to make any changes?
They can resubmit a revision to the original permit, and we can process that. It does not happen. I don't remember ever we had received any sort of a revision to the permits, but there's no restriction on revising the original application.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question is, what happens if a restaurant doesn't have a parklet? Can they utilize bulb outs if there's room? Or what alternatives are there?
Yeah, there are certain restaurants like on California Drive that we do not recommend parklets, and a selected number of streets were selected for parklets. But on certain streets like Broadway, we have tried to accommodate wherever possible, allowing proper pedestrian flow. But it's pretty difficult when you don't have adequate width. We are open to reviewing opportunities for a parklet can be constructed as long as it does not obstruct the flow of pedestrians, flow of traffic. Again, parklet is primarily supposed to be used in the parking space, as long as it is not unsafe for the public, both the motorists as well as the pedestrians.
And then my other question to follow up on that, may I, through the mayor?
Oh, yes, please go ahead.
So then can a restaurant, let's just say if they didn't have parking spaces in front of their restaurant, could they, with the permission of, let's say, maybe a next door business, be able to construct a parklet with their permission? I guess probably they would have to pay, that restaurant would have to pay the insurance and any liability that goes with that.
Yes, it has been done.
Thank you.
Right. I think that's a great question. I think is something that's going to probably come up soon, and I think that's great. Thank you for asking that. I think a lot of us were thinking it, so I appreciate you doing that. Council or Vice Mayor Brownrigg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just because we focused a lot on the cost appropriately, I wonder if Director Gardner wants to talk briefly about the aesthetics. The Economic Subcommittee did discuss this. We decided not to create extremely elaborate standards, but Mr. Gardner, maybe you'd like to describe where we came out on the sort of aesthetic approach here.
That's correct, Councilmember Brownrigg, and there were differences of opinion, and certainly amongst the council too. I think there were thoughts of having more detailed standards that we've seen in some other cities. But when it comes down to it, a couple things. One is generally most of the parklets have taken quite good care of themselves in terms of aesthetics, and some of them are very elaborate and come up with their own design approaches on their own. So we really narrowed down to what are the things that are important. I think the orange barriers were, the consensus was that the orange barriers are not attractive to look at. They're great for their structural integrity. And we did already start seeing businesses covering them up. So we kind of learned from that and saw that how much better they looked with covering up with pretty much anything. And then the other thing being the level floor, which is really important just for functionality. We do need to clarify that the floor does need to have some provision to be removed if necessary, as some of these parklets have utilities underneath them, but that can be done with panels. So beyond that, it was really left more to the operators they could go with a fairly basic cover the barriers, have a level floor, and put out some tables, or do something more elaborate. But we didn't feel that the city needed to necessarily dictate that.
I think that's a great synopsis. And I guess I would just add for my colleagues and for anybody listening, this is something, what we decided to do was not be overly prescriptive, but it doesn't mean we can't revisit this if collectively we feel that aesthetics are really taking a downturn. So it's we chose not to overregulate and create a lot of red tape, but we can revisit that if council members think we should. So anyway, thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Brownrigg. Thank you, Mr. Gardner. I think that's a really good point that you bring up. We can always tighten it up if things get out of hand. And so I hope we don't have to, but we do have that option. And with that, any other colleague questions? If not, then we will open it to the public. Madam City Clerk, do I have any members of the public wishing to comment on this item?
I don't have any emails, and I don't see any hands up.
We do have an email,
Oh,
Megan.
you do? Sorry.
Yeah. And it's Mr. Scarcella's email.
Did it come in under public
Under
comment?
public comment, yep.
Thank you. Oh, yes. Questions. Please define parklet clearly. It is unclear if the proposed $1,500 rent is per parking spot used. If you have 3 parking spots, will annual rent be $4,500? Please be more clear as to the cleaning costs and how they will be calculated. Again, if $300 per month per parklet, it would be helpful to define parklet in terms of parking spaces used. Please define the design standards. Will you move forward with the fees and rent if we are shut down again for indoor dining? If you choose to remove your parklet, I assume there will be no cleaning charge for the sidewalk in front of your restaurant. And then if we choose to forgo the parklet based on the proposed cost, I will expect the city to come and remove the parklet we spent several $1,000s to construct and to cover the cost of removal. We were not provided any information on what the proposed cost would be. If we had, we may not have elected to spend the money in the first place. We are not choosing to have parklets simply to add more tables to our restaurant. We are trying to survive during this disaster. We will happily remove the parklet when this disaster subsides, and then you can collect your parking revenue.
Well, okay, that was a lot of questions in that email. I think the majority of them have been addressed. So I don't know, Director Gardner, if there's something in there that you feel that we would like to still respond to.
I did try to, I saw the emails prior to the meeting, so I did try to answer the questions in the presentation.
And like I said, I think you answered most of them earlier in your presentation. So I think the question about removal kind of sits with me, that maybe we need to address that. I don't know if this is the right time to do that, but that sounded like an interesting one.
Sure. I think if we, look back to the parklet program as being temporary and a response to the pandemic, I think businesses, as they erected their parklets, had assumed that once the pandemic is over, the parklets would go away. So I think that has been the working assumption. And that the businesses would remove the parklets themselves. I don't think there had been an expectation that the city would be removing the parklets at the end of the pandemic. What's a little different here is that a pandemic program is now being turned into a longer term program where it's focused more on the amenity value of the parklets rather than as a kind of public health response, given that occupancy of restaurants is allowed to be full occupancy since last June. So I think the same assumption would hold in that the business would be responsible for removing the parklet structures. The exception is the orange barriers, which the city owns and will drain and take those away should the parklet no longer be used.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. And I am pretty comfortable that every time this has been before us, we've been clear that it was a temporary stopgap measure, and that I don't think we gave anybody the sense that this was a permanent arrangement. So with that, I think that takes care of that. So colleagues, so no further public comment.
Mayor Ortiz, we do have one more. John Kavranian has just put his hand up.
Great, Mr. Kavranian, if you could.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I want to take the time to thank the staff for the great work they've done with the staff report and all the hours they put in regards to the parklets. We as merchants on Broadway who have parklets, we don't disagree with the $1,500 parklet fee, but the issue came up in regards to the cleaning fee. And I know that it's not on the discussion, it's not on the agenda, but we thought that it would be on the agenda tonight. And that's why several of our merchants have emailed. All the merchants, we don't agree on the cleaning fee. So we just wanted to emphasize to the council that the $300 per month, if it's established, it would be difficult for many of the merchants to pay. Over the weekend, last Friday, New Year's Eve, most of our restaurants lost 50% of their reservations. People canceled. The virus is back, the variant is back, and a lot of restaurants were having difficult time on Friday, Saturday with their business. So this is not over. And I think we have to look at these fees very closely. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kavranian. I just want to say I was at a salt yard on New Year's Eve, and it was packed to the gills. So yeah. So and then when I walked around, there was a few others that seemed to be doing pretty good business. So there. But yeah, I appreciate your comments. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to bring it back to my colleagues. And no more public comment, Megan? No, okay, no. Good. So with that, we'll bring it back to my colleagues for any final comments or any thoughts before we move for the, we're looking for a motion to approve this, right?
It's a
colleagues. Councilmember Colson, please.
Sure. I think the staff has done a really thorough report. I think it's very logical and it makes sense what they're asking. So with regard to the rent, I'll make a motion to approve the staff recommendation for establishing the base rent for the parklets.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Coulson, seconded by Councilmember O'Brien.
May I just make a quick comment on the motion,
Sure.
Mr. Mayor?
You're right in the middle of my sentence. Okay.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
couldn't
please.
find the raise hand button fast enough. So I completely support the motion. I just wanted to add one extra comment about this notion from one of the questioners that we never knew, it never occurred to us that you would charge. But forever we have charged when you want to put tables and chairs out on the sidewalk. So the notion that we shouldn't charge for the use of public land, I think, is it is common sense that one day we would start charging. Not only are we required to by constitutional law, but we have a policy of doing it already. So I just wanted to address that particular point. We did lean in for a long time and try to help a lot of our businesses, but it is time to get right with the Constitution. So anyway, I just wanted to offer that additional comment. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I go back. We have a motion by Councilmember Coulson, seconded by Councilmember O'Brien. Madam City Clerk, if we could have roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Brien,
Yes.
Councilmember Beach,
Yes.
Councilmember Coulson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brownrigg,
Yes.
Mayor Ortiz.
Yes. Thank you very much. With that, we move on to a very important item, number 10D, which is an adoption of a resolution authorizing amendment of the city manager's employment agreement to provide a salary increase of 2% and account accrual of 25 vacation days per year and approving the city of Burlingame pay rates and ranges salary schedule. I'm assuming our Human Resources Director, Ms. Morrison, please.
Hi, everybody. Good evening, Mayor Ortiz and council members. You just summarized exactly what I'm here to present, Mr. Mayor. So I just wanted to say that Lisa Goldman, our city manager, she just completed her 9th year of city service. The council met in closed session to review her annual performance on December the 8th, and then subsequently made the recommendation to increase her salary by 2% and increase her vacation accrual rate by 10 days per year on December 20th in closed session. So this is the same increase that's granted to the department head and the unrepresented group, and actually to all of the units that we reached agreement with in 2021. Ms. Goldman actually did not receive a salary increase last year. She asked to forego it because of the COVID impact, financial impact. Everybody else got their raise, but she did not. And she also receives the same benefits as the city department head group. So any changes in the salary for an executive cannot be done on consent, which is why we're here in a staff report. Thanks very much.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you for your report. Colleagues, do you have any questions for the Human Resources Director? And again, I'm going to ask to hold the comments till after public comment. So we having no questions, then we will open it to members of the public. As Madam City Clerk, do we have any public comments?
There are no hands up and I don't see any emails.
Perfect. Thank you. And with that, then I will open it to my colleagues for any comments. And if there aren't, then I would like to get started. And I just have to say that it has been the last 8 years that I've been here, that's been an absolute pleasure working with you, the city manager. And I think that, yeah, we were pretty conservative last year with your raise, and I'm glad to be able to make up for it today. And thank you for all your efforts. I think you do a great job, and your performance review that we all did certainly showed that. And I think that it was pretty unanimous that we were all very pleased with your performance. So with that, I'll open it to Vice Mayor Brownrigg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't sure I would comment, but I just feel I'm so grateful to our city manager for the leadership she has shown over her whole tenure, but especially over the last 2 years. Two statistics that really stand out to me. our discretionary revenue, so not, not water and sewer, but discretionary revenue fell by 20%. And I don't think any citizen noticed a downturn in service, in reliability, and responsiveness. We had our library open as soon as we could. We had our parks and recs working as soon as we could in whatever fashion we could. And I just really appreciate that doesn't come automatically. And there are other cities that had layoffs and trouble and are still playing catch up. And Burlingame, notwithstanding a 20% hit to revenue, is, you wouldn't know that would haven't missed a beat. And so I really wanted to call that out. And then frankly, the selflessness of not asking for a raise last year and asking to match all the department heads this year, which is conservative raise, quite honestly, in light of the financial uncertainty and in light of that revenue hit that we all took. So that's really the mark of a leader who leads by example and not just by dictate. So I just wanted to thank Ms. Goldman for those things. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other members would care to make a comment? I don't see any raised hands. So with that, Councilmember Colson.
I just want to say, sort of, I'm sure that Councilwoman Beach and Council Member and Woman O'Brien, just on behalf of all three it would be really unjust if the ladies didn't speak up on behalf of our female colleague. And so I think on behalf of all three of the women on this council, Lisa, you are a gold standard in leadership for all women. And I think our city should be very proud to have such a person who can attract and maintain such high level diversity in our staff and honor and respect and in the community and in the industry that you have. It's a reflection on all of us. And I think, frankly, most of us wouldn't continue to do this job year in, year out for basically free if we didn't have such a wonderful staff led by you. So thank you.
Good one. I like that. That's so very true. Thank you for that. Councilmember O'Brien.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, it's been a privilege working with our county or our city manager, Lisa Goldman. I had the pleasure of actually being the mayor when she came on board. And she has just done a phenomenal job leading Burlingame in the right direction. And the past 2 years have been, quite challenging. And she's just stepped up to the plate with grace and eloquence, and has really been a true leader and has worked well with her employees and with the council in just accomplishing an amazing amount of projects and looking at our financials and being conservative with that. And I think we're a city that is just really stepped up to that challenge and has just done a great job, moving forward and still doing big projects, still keeping up with CIP. And I look forward to working with our city manager, this coming year. And I'm hoping that, we'll get through this, COVID pandemic in the near future and continue, doing great things in the city.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Brien. Well said. And I hope our city manager is feeling the love. I have one more, Councilmember Beach.
Well, I can't not say anything. So just bravo to our city manager. We are so lucky to have your leadership in Burlingame. So that is all. Thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you. Thank you. And then with that, then we will, I guess I would like to entertain a motion if somebody would care to do that.
Sounds like we should let one of the women make the motion.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Councilmember.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion by Councilmember Beach, seconded by Councilmember O'Brien, and happy to request a roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien?
Yes.
Councilmember Beach?
Yes.
Councilmember Colson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brownrigg?
Yes.
Mayor Ortiz?
Yes, congratulations, Ms. Goldman, and thank you again for all your hard work.
Thank you all for your kind words. That was really nice.
Thanks. Very nice. So we will move on to item number 11, which is council committee and activities, reports and announcements. I do want to make a comment. I think there was something that council member Colson said earlier in the correction for our consent agenda, adding a few additional items to the already heavy load that she carries. And it just reminded me that we all have leadership positions in many of the regional boards that we serve. And I think it's important for the public to be reminded on occasion that it's not just what we do here at the city council, but we're involved with many, many regional boards or bodies that do many different things. So thank you for that to all of you. And again, it's for the big bucks, so appreciate it. With that, anybody would like to make any comments on their committee reports? Or I don't see any raised hands. So with that, we move on to item number 12, which is future agenda items. Colleagues, they're all quiet.
I don't think anybody would dare start New Year's off.
Very good. Very good. So with that, we will move on to item number 13, which is acknowledgements. Their agenda packet is for the Planning Commission, Traffic Safety, Parking Commission, Beautification Commission, Parks and Recreation Commission, and the Library Board of Trustees. So they're all available online at www.burlingame.org. And then we'll move on to adjournment. And I hope somebody has, actually, I shouldn't say I hope. Does anybody have anybody they would like to adjourn in their honor? And that is a good thing that we don't have anybody to adjourn in their honor. So with that, I would say thank you all and look forward to the rest of the great year. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.